Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Cannici. Welcome to another edition of Valley Sports Rewind. And today we are joined by Ansonia basketball girls coach Vince Della Volpe. And Coach, I want to thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So, Vince, let me ask you. You obviously grew up in a family of, coaching. When did you start getting an interest in coaching, sports in general, not just basketball?
Sports in general, 2002, 2003. While my father was mayor, he had wanted to coach an Ansonia biddy basketball team. And with his commitments as mayor, he didn't know his schedule, if he would always be there, asked me to be his assistant. I was glad to help out, and it was a great experience with the Ansonia recreational program.
Right. So let me ask you this, Vince. You did play football for Ansonia, correct?
Yeah, I did. I played 3 years. I did not play my senior year, but I did play as a freshman, sophomore, and junior.
Right. So, was basketball always the first love? Did you like all sports the same, or what would you say was always your love?
For me personally, basketball was always my first love.
Right.
Obviously, in Ansonia, football is number one, and I loved the Ansonia football.
Right.
Being involved with my father, but basketball to me, I watched more of it, I played more of it, so it was more important.
Right. And you played baseball, if I'm not mistaken, too, correct?
I only played Little League in Babe Ruth.
Really?
I didn't play.
Right.
When I got to high school, I actually decided to play golf.
Golf, right?
Yeah.
Which was very popular. And if I'm not mistaken, Jack Hunt was the golf coach at one point.
Jack was the golf coach, and also my father and Jack had opened a driving range,
Right.
where BJ's is now. So I spent a lot of time working there, and I spent a lot of time hitting balls and picking them up. So I really got into it.
Right. So let me ask you, I'm not sure how old you were when they won it, but when Ansonia's basketball team had that great run in the 94-95 season where they captured the state title, do you remember a lot of that, or were you too young to really understand it?
I remember a lot of it. I had pretty much gone to every game that year.
Right.
I went to Assumption School. I was on the Assumption School team. And I remember missing actually a lot of games to go watch Ansonia play through the regular season. I remember having Earl Stanley actually had to sneak me into a
Right.
Ansonia Holy Cross home game in the old high school,
Wow.
which, obviously didn't fit many people, but got in there, got to watch Ansonia beat Edmund Saunders, which was a great experience.
And that Holy Cross team, that was a great Holy Cross team those couple years there. And them and Ansonia went back and forth. I think they split both years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Right.
They won the year Ansonia won the L. I believe Holy
Right.
Cross won the double L that year.
Right. So now let me ask you, say you were like in 6th and 7th grade, did you always picture yourself being a basketball coach? Were you a big college basketball fan? Like, did you watch those type of games? Or any coaches that you kind of emulated growing up?
I always loved Duke. I always loved Mike Krzyzewski.
Right.
I watched a lot of, any college basketball that was on. Obviously, I watched UConn. I wasn't the biggest UConn fan, but I
Right.
watched a lot of UConn. Back then, I didn't envision myself being a coach. I always thought I'd be a player.
Right.
Like every kid thinks he's going to. I really just thought I'd be a college basketball player. That was
Right.
what I wanted to do. But, coaching-wise, I really didn't feel I was going to be a coach until the last game I played in high school. That was when I
Right.
really thought about it.
So let's talk about your high school career as far as basketball goes. You had Coach McQueenie for at least 1 year, right?
He was the varsity coach when I was a freshman.
Right.
I didn't play any varsity. I didn't play JV. I was just on the freshman team. My freshman basketball coach was Jack Hunt.
Right. Which was kind of unusual, being a football coach. But Jack was very intense, too, as a basketball coach. So.
Very intense. He was intense in everything that he coached, even in golf. He
Right.
was intense. But, that was a great experience. I think we went 10-10 as freshmen. We had a pretty good team.
Right.
The varsity team at that time had gone, I believe, to the quarterfinals that year. We were in a very good stretch of basketball at Ansonia High School.
Right. So now, your sophomore year at Ansonia playing basketball, what was that experience like? And did you know that, playing that year, you'd want to continue to expand your basketball career?
Yeah, definitely. I was excited playing JV for the first time. I actually got some varsity time as a sophomore.
Right.
We weren't very successful. We went 4-16.
Right.
And I think at that time, too, the hardest part about basketball at Ansonia, which I think, speaks a lot about our success when we had it, was we played everybody twice. So we
Right.
played Holy Cross twice, Wilby twice, Kennedy twice, Crosby twice. We didn't get to play, we didn't play Woodland. We didn't play
Right.
Oxford. We didn't play Derby.
Right.
So our schedule was very difficult year in and year out.
And who were your two non-league games back then when you would play out of league?
We didn't have any non-league games.
Everything. The MVL, too. I
Yep.
mean, there were teams that weren't in your division, but they were still in the MVL, so you always ended up playing. That's very hard, too, because that's a very strong league, especially in basketball. You know, Kennedy may not be a great football program, but they've always had a very good basketball program.
To this day, I still believe MVL basketball is the best basketball in Connecticut. I think by far. Waterbury basketball is phenomenal.
Right.
And other teams have started to catch up, and, you know, the NVL basketball-wise is just very, very good.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, the 3 years of varsity you played for Coach Shortle, am I correct? Right.
Yes. Steve Shortle was the varsity coach. Tim Lynch was the JV coach.
Right.
For 1 year, my senior year, Steve Coughlin was an assistant with us.
Right.
And for 2 years, my brother was also an assistant.
Right. And so let's talk about your junior year. I believe you started that year, correct?
I didn't start in the beginning of the year. I think about 5-6 games in, I became a starter. I was, very excited. Again, we didn't have much success. We were 4-16 again. But that experience really helped me going into senior year.
Right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe my math is off, but one of those years, Coach Shortle had to miss some time, correct? Didn't he have like an issue with his back or something like that? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I don't remember him missing any time varsity wise.
Right. Or maybe it was Coach McQueenie who
Coach McQueenie had missed some time when I was a freshman.
Right. So that's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yep.
But so how would you say your junior and senior teams were, and how did you feel you were as a basketball player? Did you feel like you were doing the best you could possibly do?
Yeah, as a junior, I felt good. I was playing decent amount of varsity minutes. I was mostly a shooter. I played more against teams that played zone. I wasn't much of a penetrator. I wasn't a great defender, but I could make shots.
Right.
So I took advantage of that when I got out there. Like I said, playing junior year really set me up for what I felt when I had a successful senior year, got us ready. For the first time our sophomore and junior year, we didn't make the tournament.
Right.
So that was hard on us, and the kids coming back our senior year were motivated just to get back to that.
Right. So talk about your senior year. I believe you were elected captain, correct?
No, I wasn't a captain.
No,
I wasn't a captain, which I was fine with.
Right.
You know, we had other senior. I think we had 4 seniors on the team that year. 2 of them were captains, 2 of them were not. Really, our goal coming in was to make the tournament. We wanted to get back,
which you guys were able to do. Correct?
We were able to do. We finished 9-11.
Right.
That year was a special year also because I think for the first time in a long time we had beat Crosby, Kennedy, and Willoughby. Which
is unheard of.
Yeah, we split with them. We played them each twice. We beat them once. Those were huge wins to get us there, and I don't think that happened for a long time. And, it was a great – when we got that 8th win to get to the tournament, it really was. It was a great feeling to be back. We felt accomplished. We felt like we had done partly what we came to do.
Right. And, again, sometimes making the tournament is, the championship because it's very hard to try to keep advancing when you're playing such great schools and stuff like that. So getting in, especially in basketball when you've had 2 years you didn't make it, that's definitely like, a successful season.
Oh, without a doubt. We were happy to be back. The actual way that we got back to the tournament was exciting. We had beat Willoughby in a 98-88 game.
Wow.
Which you don't see. You see a little more now, but, 17 years ago you didn't see it that much. And we actually came back. Our 9th win, we were trailing by 8 points with 30 seconds in Naugatuck.
Wow.
And came back and won in regulation.
Wow.
So that was a great win for us. That really propelled us going forward.
Right. And what would you say on a personal level, what would you say as a senior some of the highlights were for you just as an individual?
Really for me, I was more of a team guy. Wasn't really looking to – I was willing to do whatever we wanted to do, whatever we had to do to win.
Right.
So just really, I was really excited getting back to the tournament. I remember actually getting that 8th win at Willoughby. Steve Coughlin carried me off the court because we were just so excited that we were going back, and that was a great moment for me.
It had to be a great bus ride home.
It was awesome. It was really great. It was great for everybody involved. We had a hardworking group of kids, and that had played together for a while, and we were just ecstatic to be back in the tournament.
Right. So now you finish your high school career. You'd said you'd someday hope to play college. Did you play any basketball in college?
No, it wasn't. It just, maybe if I wanted to really go to like a Division III school, somewhere like that, maybe I could have played, but it just wasn't. it wasn't something that I wanted to do at that point.
Right. So let me ask you this question. I'm going to talk more about it as we discuss, the girls' team. But the toughest thing, I think, sometimes for teams like Ansonia and Derby playing in especially the boys' division MVL, is, you're just playing so many teams who have Division I players. How hard is it to, number one, prepare for teams like that, and number two, to be able to, just try to stay in some of those games? Because you look at teams like Crosby and Wilby, they're just so quick and they have such height, where like sometimes Derby and Ansonia, they don't always have the height to compete with these teams. What do you think is the problem?
Well, it's hard to, when you're in practice, you can't simulate playing somebody like my junior year or sophomore year, Ryan Gomes,
right,
who went to Providence and then went to the NBA. You just don't have you don't have somebody that's 6'7", that's going to come to practice with his ability. So it is hard to simulate it. I think our coaches did a great job of always making us believe. One thing we did do as, 4 and 16, my sophomore and junior year, we competed.
Right.
We weren't a team that, teams came and really ran us out of the gym. We were in competitive games during those times. And, we had hard-nosed kids. We had a lot of kids that weren't really basketball players. We had a lot of kids that were football players that were playing basketball. So we competed. We always played hard. We never gave in. And I think a lot of teams respected us for that.
Right. Now, Vince, all these sports have taken on a tremendous, turn as far as like feeder leagues and stuff like that. But when you were a kid, I think there was really only, Biddy, which I think Ansonia called it something else, but City League or whatever.
Yep.
And then, the school team. But there weren't a lot of travel teams when you were a kid, were there?
No, there wasn't really a lot of travel teams. As a kid, I played, Biddy basketball.
Right.
We had about 8 teams in the league. I was fortunate as a 7th and 8th grader being at Assumption School, playing on the Assumption team,
right,
to where we got to play actually about 40 games.
Right.
We played in the Derby League, Derby Parochial League. We got to play in the St. Joseph Trumbull Parochial League, several tournaments. So I was very fortunate at that time to be at Assumption and have Biddy basketball.
Right. And you look at it now, it's just crazy. Every sport, football, it's year-round. There's the weightlifting competitions. There's the passing leagues. Then you got basketball. There's, like I said, there's travel teams everywhere you look. And then baseball, the same thing, fall league, there's spring, summer. So it's like, do you think a kid who plays 3 sports, can really can be committed to each sport like coaches want them to be? Or do you think it's difficult now with all the other things that go on with it?
It's very difficult now. You just don't see, boys or girls, you don't see as many 3-sport athletes as you used to. I think about the players from the mid-'90s from Ansonia, guys like Steve Coughlin, who was a 3-sport athlete.
Right.
Jim Froelich was a 3-sport athlete.
Right.
They were very good at all those sports. They played football. When football ended, they played basketball.
Right.
Basketball ended, they went right into baseball.
Right.
And things are just a little different now to where it's more specialized for each sport.
Right. Now, when did you first get into coaching? Like, what did you first coach, like, when you started out getting into coaching?
My first high school job was 2005 with Seymour High School baseball. I was the Seymour High School baseball freshman coach.
Right.
With Bob Kello as obviously the varsity coach, and Brian Moore was the JV coach.
Right.
That was my first high school opportunity.
So how did you get into baseball? Because as you mentioned, you said you didn't play high school baseball. What made you decide to get into coaching baseball?
Basically, Coach Kello just asked me. I
Really?
had known him. Yeah, I had known him. I had gotten to know him a little better as I got a little older. And he just needed a freshman coach, asked me if I was available. I told him yes. I told him I hadn't played baseball. I played a little league in Babe Ruth. He said, don't worry about it. He goes, there's only one way we coach in Seymour. That's my way, and I'll teach you how to do it.
Right.
So he taught me a lot about baseball, and I'm grateful to him for that.
And he was very detailed with everything. He always had a agenda every day for the kids. And, there were always consequences if you, didn't field right or something like that. I know there was always the thing running the poles or whatever back and forth. So he's a very demanding coach. Did you enjoy coaching with him, though?
Yes, I loved coaching with Coach Kello. Like you said, that's one of the things I got from him. I feel like some of the people that I coached with, I got a little something from all of them.
Right.
And what I got from Coach Kello was his attention to detail. I think a lot of people didn't understand. Every day you had a time schedule, what we were going to do that day. When we went to play a team, we had the other team's batting order and what they had done in previous games when we played them. So he was
Right.
very organized and very detailed.
Right. So how long did you stay at Seymour coaching baseball?
I was at Seymour from 2005 to 2011.
So you did get the ring that year with the 2007 team, if
Yes.
I'm not correct, right?
Yeah, I was the JV coach. I got moved up to JV 2006 once
Right.
Brian Moore had changed jobs and wasn't a teacher anymore. So I was there for 2007. That was a great run. I mean, what a great group of kids.
And, he had come close so many times. I think he had lost 3 championship games. So he had finally, climbed that mountain. How special was that just for him to see him win that championship?
It was extremely special to be there with him for that. He's such a humble guy. He really was. He knew
Right.
it wasn't about him. I remember, and I still have it on my computer, the audio that they had from that game. The crowd was chanting his name. They
Right.
really were. He was a special guy in Seymour. People were really behind him. They were really happy for him. But at the end, he really didn't make it about him. He made it about the group of kids that we had, and that's how he always was while I coached with him.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, you work a lot with the pitchers nowadays when you coach.
Yep.
How did you, number one, get into working with the pitchers? And I know Steve Riley coached with Coach Kello, and he's very good with the pitchers. Did you and Steve ever discuss things? I mean, did he ever give you any advice on things?
Everything I basically got pitching-wise came from Coach Kello and Steve Riley.
Really?
Steve, I like to call him the guru. I mean, he was
Right.
a pitching guru. That's what he was. He had tons of stories. Every year, we couldn't wait to see what new gadget he was coming in with. He always had
Right.
something new. That's where I really got a lot of it from. I really picked his brain and paid a lot of attention to him the first couple of years he was there.
Right. So now, when did you first get into coaching basketball? What was your first head coaching job, or just coaching job in general?
As I said, the first coaching thing I did was in Ansonia Biddy basketball with my
Right.
father. That year, or the following year, they asked me to coach the Ansonia All-Star team,
Right.
which I actually had a great group of kids that year. I had Eric Corasia,
Oh, wow.
who played Ansonia football, Dan DeGennaro,
Wow.
Ronnie Billadu.
That's a whole crew.
Yeah. They were a great group of kids. They had Richie Spader, who ended up going to Seymour,
Yeah.
but good basketball player. And again, kids who weren't really basketball players, more football. They turned out to be more football players.
Right.
But they were good size kids, tough nosed kids,
Right.
rebound. They were a joy to coach. That team really got me excited
Right.
about coaching. And then my first basketball coaching job was actually with Tim Lynch when Tim Lynch became the head coach at Pomperac.
Oh, okay.
I was
Yeah.
an assistant on his staff in 2005, from 2005 to 2008, and that was my first taste of high school basketball.
Right. So now, when did you? I know you went back to Ansonia, but did you? Were you a head coach anywhere else at that point, like as far as freshman or JV?
No, I had always been an assistant.
Right.
And then in 2008 at Pomperac, we had just lost in the second round to Torrington, a very good Torrington team who had Jordan Williams,
Right.
who ended up playing in the NBA and at Maryland. Timmy, after the game, had told me he wasn't coming back.
Right.
And I was kind of surprised. We had just had a great year. We beat Middletown in the first round
Right.
as a 25 seed. And he told me he wasn't coming back. I was surprised. I was a little, I was wondering what I was going to do next. And then the following year, Pat Lynch became the girls basketball coach at Ansonia and had asked me to be his assistant. And I gladly joined that staff. I was excited to be there.
Right. And that was 2009. So I believe you got the head coaching job in 2015 or 2014.
It was 2014. Yep.
Right. So this is now your 4th season,
Yes.
correct? So you were an assistant a good amount of years, which I think, sometimes coaches could, if they really grasp things, they could become a head coach quick. But you waited a while. You waited about 6 years till you got your first job, or 5 years. So I think that was probably beneficial to you. And plus, you had coached with Tim, you mentioned, at Pomperac. So you had about 9 years assistant coaching experience, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I had 9 years as an assistant. I had felt I was ready, of course, before.
Right.
I had an opportunity to become a head coach, and it didn't work out. And, I just felt the timing was right. The job was there, so I took it.
Right. So let me ask you, you coached boys, you've coached girls. What is the difference between the two, coaching boys and girls?
I think the biggest difference sometimes in the game is the speed of the game.
Right.
I think boys they play a little faster.
Right.
You'll get, I think that's just genetics,
Right.
just like that. There's not too many differences. I think as a girls coach, I'm a little more compassionate. I try to be. I try to be a little more soft-spoken at times. Sometimes my competitive side comes out a little bit. But, you're addressing a girl differently sometimes. But, for the most part, my experience with girls, I never, ever thought I'd be a girls coach.
Right.
Ever when I started coaching. But it's been a wonderful experience thus far. I've had great groups of girls, and it's been really good.
Right. And, one of the things that I kind of alluded to earlier is these feeder programs play a big part, and you're the head coach, but you're really coaching year-round when you think about it, because you always have to make sure you have them in summer leagues, whatever type of leagues you need, spring leagues, stuff like that. So how the coaching part is definitely the fun part and stuff, but how difficult is it with the other stuff, especially paperwork and all that stuff? How difficult is that part for you?
It's hard to be there all the time.
Right.
So this year, for the first year in a long time, we've always played summer league in Stratford. I don't have to go to those games, but I like to be there. You have to have somebody else coach it. But I like to go see how the girls are progressing. And for the first time this year, we played in a fall league as well.
Right.
So we played fall league in Woodbridge. I try to go to those games all the time on Sunday mornings. Those leagues this year, more than any other year, tremendously have helped us so far.
Right.
But, it's hard to be there all the time. Kids are playing AAU. You like to go see them play AAU if you can.
Right.
But it is each sport now, football, basketball, and baseball, especially football. But basketball and baseball have all become, year-round things.
Right. So let me ask you, you're in your fourth season. Have you had the same coaching staff all 4 years, or who are some of the coaches that coach with you presently?
The first 3 years, Steve Shorto was my assistant coach.
Right.
Who was my high school coach. He was great. Great game coach. Kept me positive. He was great to the girls. This year, Pat Lynch came back as my JV coach.
Right.
And we also have, as a varsity assistant, Natalie Ramadanovich, who is from Stratford.
Right.
She played at Bunnell in the late 90s, early 2000s. And she has been wonderful. The girls really like her. She's been a breath of fresh air to the program. So the staff's been great thus far.
Right. And I would think, too, you probably agree. I mean, you see it with UConn, Gino, and Chris. It's definitely you need like at least a female on the staff with these girls. It's important, and, because they could kind of relate to them, when they're having a tough game, stuff like that. So that definitely is something that you probably agree is necessary, correct?
Absolutely. The first years when I was with Pat, we had Alicia Mott Coughlin helped out. We had her sister also helped out, Julie.
Right.
And over the course of practices and stuff, we also have alumni come back. And they come back and talk to the girls. Like they help them out in practice. They help them out in the off season. So it's always important having that balance.
Right. And so your first couple of years, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys kind of struggled a little bit, correct?
Yes.
How tough is that? But you kind of knew that was going to happen. You had young girls. How hard is that for you, though, as a head coach, to know that you're at practice every day and these kids are working hard? And sometimes, if you win 4 games, that's probably the best they could do at that point, and that's a good season, but record-wise it's not. So how difficult is that for you to know that, you're not going to have the team maybe that people would like or that you would like, and you still have to go out there every day and, just keep trying? How hard is it?
It's frustrating. It does get frustrating. You start questioning yourself. You start questioning the things you're doing, what you're doing in practice. The one thing that I always say to the girl, I'm so appreciative of the girls that stay and stick around, because it's not easy to go through as a player. It's not easy to go through as a coach. And I have so much respect for the girls that have come through the program during tough times and stuck with it. Nowadays, I think you see more kids that it's easy to just quit. There's more things to do. You could sit home on your phone. You could sit home on your computer, stuff like that. Yeah. So I really appreciate the effort that I get from the girls that come day in and day out and work hard. And that part was gratifying, having the kids always coming, always wanting to get better. Right.
And now you and Derby have kind of teamed up together, correct? You guys run a program throughout the year, if I'm not mistaken, you with Coach Chevarella, correct? Talk about that a little bit.
Pat Lynch and Dave Chevarella started it. I think it was either 2009 or 2010 where we got Ansonia and Derby to combine. When we started, we had a team in each grade. We had a 4th through 8th grade team.
Right.
Comprised of only Ansonia and Derby girls. We had all voluntary coaches. Some parents. Dave coached a few teams that his daughters played on. Pat coached a few teams. I had coached a few teams over a couple of years. This year, I actually stepped back. I was coaching the 6th grade team. And, it takes up a lot of time. It's more time. You're trying to have practice. You're trying to get there. It's not easy. I was lucky to have Sean Hayden fill in.
Right, and Sean's a good guy. Yeah.
Yes, very good guy.
Yeah.
And he's taken over the 6th grade team and done a good job. This year, our coaches, I believe, our 4th grade coach is Ann Lynch.
Oh, okay.
Danny Lynch's wife. Kaylee Hyde, who's an assistant at Derby. She helps out with the 4th grade team. Rebecca Dante, a former coach. A former player for Derby, is helping coach the 4th grade team. Sean Hayden's doing the 6th grade team. And then our 8th grade coaches are Mike Jadek and Natalie Ramadanovich, who helps me. She's doing the 8th grade team. She's doing double duty. So she's busy during basketball season. So it's a good program. The girls, it's helped. It has helped myself and Dave with players coming in more prepared for basketball season. I wish our numbers were better at the youth level, obviously. It's not easy getting kids out.
Right.
Cheerleading is so popular
in
Ansonia and Derby that, a lot of the cheerleaders are focused on that and,
And, the running club in Derby, too.
Yes.
That's taken over.
Also, yes.
Right.
Yep.
But you got a good group of kids out, because you could see it, like, you could, when they post stuff, you could definitely see that more and more are coming out every year. Before we get to this year's team, just talk to me about some of the players who have really helped kind of, move this progress along. Maybe the record wasn't there, but they kind of laid the foundation for what the future holds for Ansonia basketball.
Yeah, when I first got to Ansonia with Pat in 2009, that was the year that made us feel very committed to girls basketball. We had Kristen Mooney, who was a very good player, almost 1,000-point scorer. I believe she scored about 900 points.
Right.
That team, we had Jean Whalen, Maria Darling, players like that. Going forward, girls that have come back to help out at practice recently, girls like Heidi Schneider, Shannon O'Brien, Jessica Mooney, Kristen Mooney's sister, Ashley Bounds. Players have been helpful. Two of the most integral players, in my opinion, were our last tournament team, Tierney Lawler and Melissa Torella, who were two outstanding players, 4-year starters. I say it to everybody. People laugh at me sometimes when I say it. Tierney Lawler was the toughest competitor that I coached, boy or girl, without a doubt.
Wow.
I remember a game that she had broken her nose, and I just went over to see if she was okay, and she had a mask in her back.
Right.
Put the mask on, went right back into the game. Told me don't bother. She just wanted to play.
And Tierney's a kid, too, who does not like attention. Like, she doesn't want to even be talked about. She's the type of player that just wants to go out there and play. She's not. You could see it when Gino would mention her. She would get kind of embarrassed. She doesn't really like that attention. And that just shows the type of kid she is. She's a team player. She doesn't really care about individual stats.
Absolutely. She was always team first. She was an incredibly intense practice player, something that you don't see on a regular basis. She wanted to be the best player in practice all the time. She always practiced at 100%, and I think that translated to that team her senior year. Right. That was our best year we had in a long time. We had 17 total wins. Right. We went to the quarterfinals of Class M, lost to Haddam Killingworth, but we got our first 2 tournament wins in a long time. And she was a big part of that. And she had Melissa Torella with her, who was a 1,000-point scorer. Amazing scorer. Right. Could put the ball in the basket. Very good shooter, good foul shooter. And they were a great tandem together. Pleasure to coach.
Right. You talked about your brother, Duncan, who's been coaching at Fairfield Ward for, I would say, close to 10 years now.
Yeah.
You're right. Do you and him kind of talk to each other a lot? Because, he could kind of relate because, he's coaching football, and it's tough in the league he coaches. And, it's not easy to have a successful season every year. So do you two kind of talk a lot when you're both coaching it? When he's coaching football, will he call you a lot? Will you call him a lot when you're coaching basketball?
Yeah. During the course of football season, I try to go to all of his games.
Right.
The FCAC is a very competitive,
Yeah.
possibly, it's probably one of the top 1 or 2 leagues in the state. His schedule, like my schedule, very demanding, very difficult. And what he's done there since he's been there has been, in my opinion, a great job.
Right.
I mean, they've been 500. They've been 6-4. He's been, I mean, for example, this year, he lost to the number 1 team in the state 17-0.
Right.
And to him, he still lost the game. But, I mean, what an effort that him and his staff put up and his kids put up that day against what turned out to be the number 1 team in the state. We talk a lot, mostly through text, just how things are going.
Right.
How are the kids dealing with the season, things of that nature. If I ever, have a question about something, I'll ask him.
Right.
He'll give me advice. It's more me asking him. He has a little more veteran time coaching than me.
Right.
So, yeah, we do. We talk.
Right. So now, last year's team, I believe, was 3-17.
Correct. Yep.
And now this year's team, I believe, already has 3 wins, right, or 2 at least.
We're 2-1.
Right. So I mean, and you started off 2-0. So I mean,
Yeah.
that had to be a good feeling for these girls because when you have a difficult season like that, to get 2 wins right off the bat, I mean, if anything else, it gives you a lot of confidence. You start thinking, hey, we could keep winning. So talk about this year's team and how that's been going.
This year's team worked extremely hard in the offseason. As I had said before, they played Summer League, played Fall League. They spent a lot of time individually just working on their games. And so far, it showed. The progress has showed. In our first game, a win over Kennedy, 40-32.
Right.
That just felt nice. And nice to start the year 1-0. It's the first time we were 1-0 since Tierney and Melissa had played.
Right.
More gratifying, though, was the second game. At Wolcott, we won 61-44.
Right.
And the reason why that was more gratifying is because Wolcott came to us last year and had beat us 45-8.
Right.
And I think I planted that in the girls' minds, and the girls really took it to heart. And for us to go up there and get that win the way we did it was extremely special and a really, really great start to the season.
Right. And, the interesting thing is, you talked about scoring only 8 points. So they got 53, more points this year and that's pretty remarkable considering, what happened last year. How upset were those girls about that loss last year? Because I would think they played with a little chip on their shoulder.
No, absolutely. Going for, if I remember correctly, we only had, I think at the half, we either had 0 or 2.
Right.
Like they had pressed us. We were turning the ball over left and right. We just weren't focused. We were getting down on ourselves.
Right.
So, I mean, that game really stood out. I mean, they felt embarrassed, and they felt like they wanted to redeem themselves. And that bus ride home from Wolcott was nice. It was special for them and for me.
Right. So talk about some of the players on the team this year. How are they progressing, and, who are some of the key players?
This year we have 3 captains.
Right.
We have senior JoJo Lopez, who's a 4-year player.
Right.
So far, she's been everything that she's done everything that I asked her to do. She plays defense. She's hit a couple shots here or there, staying out of foul trouble.
Right.
She's been a good leader. We have another senior captain, Sarah Hanif, who has been a 4-year player. She's not getting much varsity playing time right now, but she's been here for 4 years, stuck with it. She's the first person to practice. She's the last person to leave. She works very hard. Her time will come. She's been great. And we have one junior captain, Liz Wilson, who, in my opinion, has become a completely different player. She had 16 in the opener against Kennedy. She had a career high 24 against Wolcott.
That's great.
And not only that, she defended a girl named Raven Cody from Wolcott, who was the returning leading scorer in the league.
Oh, wow.
And in their first game, in Wolcott's first game, she scored 30. Against us, Liz held her to 12.
Wow.
So it was a great, I think Liz right now and will become one of the great defenders in our league.
Right.
And that's a testament to her hard work. She played AAU. She was at every fall league game. She was at every summer league game. And it's been great to watch her progress.
Right.
We have sophomore Natasha Rivera, who's a 2-year starter.
Yeah.
She's been a little foul trouble. First 3 games, we're working on that.
Right.
But she had 15 points, 10 rebounds in the first game. She had 20 points, 13 rebounds against
and she's only
Wolcott,
a sophomore.
And
so
she's only a sophomore.
You get her 2 more years, which has got to be, pretty exciting too.
Yep, absolutely. Larissa Rodriguez is a junior.
Right.
Shooter. She's had double digits in each of the first 2 games.
Right.
She made some big shots for us against Wolcott that got us going. And we have a freshman, Jada Sanchez, who's been playing. She's been playing well. She's only her second year of playing basketball, but she's a varsity starter right now, playing great defense. She's all over the court. She's a joy to coach.
Right.
She's just absorbing everything. We have another freshman who's starting to get some time, Lily Romanowski. And we just got a junior back from injury who will be playing in her first game tonight, Ariana Blackwell, and I'm excited to get her back. The girls are excited to get her back, see how she could help us going forward. So things have been great thus far. Right. Our goals are the same every year. Get to 8 wins, make the tournament, try to improve our tournament standing, try to get to the league tournament.
And now, just so people have an idea, who will you guys play tonight?
We play Waterbury Career Academy.
Right.
At home at 5:30.
Right.
We're in a big stretch of games, a big 5-game stretch. Next week we have, during break, Woodland at Woodland.
Right.
Then we go for our rivalry game versus Derby.
Right.
Derby, Platte Tech, and Torrington. So it's a big 5-game stretch for us.
So in those 5 games, I would think you want to get at least 3 of them, correct?
Yeah, I mean we want to go 5-0.
Right.
We're not looking ahead. We're looking at Waterbury Career tonight.
Right.
But in order to get to our goals, we at least want to go 3-2. I know we want to go 5-0. We want to win every day, and that's our goal. We'll be, if we get back to the tournament this year, I think that as a starting point, that's going to be a great building block going forward. As we only have 2 seniors,
right?
So,
and now you mentioned the games at 5:45. Now, are you able to get some JV games this year, or how has that been going?
Yeah, JV has been fine. At home, we usually play at 4:15 JV, 6 o'clock. Right. When we go on the road, it's 5:30 and 7.
Right.
I actually like the earlier time. I like the earlier start. It gives you time after the game to get the scores in.
Yeah.
Sometimes
and plus, the girls too. I mean,
Oh yeah.
If a game starts at 7, especially on the road, you may not get home till almost 10. That's a long day for these kids.
Absolutely. I mean, they're going from 7 in the morning.
Right.
Sometimes they don't leave school. They stay until the bus leaves at 3:30, 4 o'clock. You don't get home till 8 o'clock. And I stress to them, academics are very important. Right. Having a 6 o'clock game could get them home, complete their homework, things like that.
Right. So, and how have the JVs fared so far in the 3 games?
JVs have been a little rough.
Right.
We have a lot of first-time players that are learning the game. Coach Lynch is doing a phenomenal job with them, just getting them.
But I think what's good, too, is even though, they're first-time players, because, you need them to, field the team, they're going to get playing time, and the more playing time they get, the better they're going to get. So I think that's an advantage, too. Maybe the wins won't come as much, but the experience will, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, what we're looking for is to have them progress to where at some point they become a varsity player.
Right.
And that's the way they're headed.
Do you have
right
any
now.
that play both, or is it strictly just...
Jada Sanchez has been playing both.
Right.
I forgot to mention another sophomore who's been playing some varsity time. She's playing both, Haley Bolito.
Okay. Who
has also been very improved from freshman to sophomore year. So we have a couple girls. Ariana Blackwell is going to be playing some JV just to get loose tonight, and then playing varsity.
Right.
So we do have 4 girls that are playing both, which also isn't easy. That's something I did as a player, and that's why I have them do it now. It's not easy, but it helps them in the long run.
Right. So let me ask you this as a coach. I talked to John D. about this a lot, and Steve Riley's even mentioned it in his book that the day of games, he found that he couldn't eat. He was so nervous, he would pace back and forth. As a head coach, I mean, obviously there's some, you're not going to win every game, but what are you like on game day? I mean, like right now as I talk to you, do you get the butterflies already, or like are you anxious? How do you feel on a game?
It is game to game.
Yeah.
I'm not very anxious or excited before the game. I'm pretty loose. I'm pretty calm.
So you keep it together.
Yeah. My problem is as the game goes on, and I'm I take it home with me after the game.
Yeah.
I really, it's, we were 2-0. We went to Watertown, and we had a very difficult game in Watertown. We got beat 51-24.
Right.
And that was on Tuesday night. And that was a hard night of sleep.
Right.
Because it was just difficult. But even after Saturday's win, it was hard to go to sleep too, because you're so excited and you're just so ready to get to the next practice, to the next game. So I would say before the game, I'm pretty calm. I'm just trying to make sure I have the game plan together. I have somebody to keep the book.
Right.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention John Raven Commune.
He's a great guy. Yeah.
That's one thing we haven't had to worry about in Ansonia basketball for 30-plus years. He's going to be there to do the clock.
Right. And here's a guy who gives his heart to Seymour and Ansonia. And, I mean, that's how much he has the love for Valley sports, in general. Let me ask you this, though, Coach. When you lose a game 60 to, say, 35, or you lose a game 58 to 56, do you still question yourself both games, or do you just sometimes say, well, you know what? We lost by 30, but this team was head and shoulders better than us. How do you assess each loss when, and I'm sure there's been wins that you've won and you've said, well, you know what? We won that game, but maybe I could have done this. Like, how do you assess yourself after each game?
It is game by game. I mean, no matter what, a loss is a loss. Whether it's by 2, whether it's by 30, I'm analyzing what I could have done better to prepare the team, what I could have done better, to get us closer to a victory. Just things like that. Right. I mean, it's there are just times, and one thing I tell my girls is I'll always be honest with them, no matter what. And there are just times you run into a team that is just, you play them 10 times, they're going to beat you 10 times. They're just more talented than you. They might have a few more seniors. They might have a few more juniors than you have. You might be a little younger. But, you always analyze it, no matter what the score, things you could do better, what you want to do in practice the next day to improve some of the things you didn't do as well as you wanted to that night.
Right. And, you talked about the 3-17 team last year, and they were young. So, I mean, it was hard to get 8 wins. But let me ask you, are you able to enjoy your off season, or are you constantly thinking about that year and thinking about the new season and I got to do this, I got to do that? Like, are you able to enjoy your off season, or is it tougher when you come off a season you didn't like and, you want to get to that next season? How do you feel once it's over?
It's hard. It's hard. You want to be, I wouldn't say I enjoy it. For the first time this year, I really didn't have an off season. I did.
Right. I coached baseball at West Haven.
I coached baseball at West Haven. I also did girls soccer at Ansonia this year.
Wow.
They didn't have a coach.
So you just love to coach and you love to interact with kids. That's basically what I could see about you, because you're doing it year round.
Yeah. I mean, I love being around the kids. I like just, trying to make somewhat of an impact on someone's life. Anytime, I would never turn down, anytime someone needed a coach, I don't think I'd be able to turn it down in this situation. Coaching high school sports right now is not, it's hard. Right. It's hard to do. There's things have changed over the course of years. You have, sometimes you have unruly parents that have unrealistic expectations, and you're dealing with that. I mean, you see it everywhere. The coaching carousel in Connecticut, as you see that. I mean, especially in football.
Right.
I mean, you need a new coach at a lot of places, a lot of times.
Right.
So
now, what do you see yourself? I mean, you want to do this for the long haul, correct?
Yeah.
The Ansonia girls, so you're not looking in a couple years to leave. I mean, you want to be a head coach for a long time, correct?
Yeah, I enjoy the places that I'm at right now. Ansonia girls basketball, I envision myself, barring any circumstances, I envision myself being here for a long time.
Right.
And, West Haven baseball, coaching with Ronnie Leno.
Which has to be an adventure, correct?
It was, for the first year, it was an absolute blast. And I got to tell you, what a guy Ronnie Leno is, as you know,
definitely.
Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy we've become very good friends over the course of the last 5-6 years.
And he'll always support his coaches, maybe he may not always agree when they're going over strategy, but he will always support them no matter what.
Absolutely, and it meant so much to me. Ronnie came to our first game against Kennedy, and he actually went to scout for me. He went to the Oxford Waterbury career game, and he tells me he's not a basketball guy. He comes back with the scouting report. He gives me 3 pages of notes.
Oh yeah, don't let him kid you. He coached basketball for a while too.
Oh yeah,
which he doesn't mention, but he definitely did. And how's that experience been? I know you said coaching with Ronnie's great, but those West Haven kids, the couple practices I went, the one thing that I really liked is that even though when the coaches are hard on these kids really love that the coaches care for them. You can see that, there was joking around a little bit. Ronnie could be intense, but at the same time, he could joke with the kids and have a good time, and he makes it fun for them too.
Yeah. No, coaching with Ronnie was a great experience. The kids at West Haven, really, I didn't know what to expect coming in. They treated me like I was from West Haven. We had a great year. Ronnie's super intense. He's super fun. And he cares so much about the kids. Right. I mean, his goal every year, not only to have a good season, but to get his seniors into college somewhere where they can play baseball. Right. And he really goes out of his way. He'll drive them to a college. He'll do whatever he has to. He'll call any coach. I mean, he would take his shirt off his back for those kids. Right. And that's a great testament to him.
Right. So talk to me about this as far as this program going forward. The other thing is, do you think, people talk about this a lot. I don't know if I agree or disagree because I don't really have a good grasp of it. But do you think Derby and Ansonia are getting to that point where they have to regionalize, or do you think people are overreacting about that a little bit?
It's hard to tell. It really is. Right. Sports-wise,
they don't need.
In girls' sports, I think it would be beneficial to both schools,
especially basketball.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Numbers haven't been great. We haven't had a freshman team in a long time. But, school-wise, they've talked about it so many times, and it's never happened. Right. I'm sure back in the day, many, many years ago, if you brought up regionalizing with Derby,
forget
it might start a brawl.
Right.
People just people didn't want to do it. And like I said, times have changed.
And the kids don't have the dislike for each other either anymore. They hang out with each other.
Yep.
They're good friends. So, I know a lot of people get upset when I say this, but the rivalry is really not there with Derby anymore. And, people tend to forget that. Like, that once was a heated rivalry. Yep. I think that rivalry's gone now. I really do.
It's, I still enjoy it. I think in basketball and baseball, it's a little different.
Yeah.
I think there's a little more parity.
Right.
So I think that, people still come to those games, basketball, baseball. Football, George does a great job at Derby.
Yeah.
He's really done a great job. Outcome-wise, it hasn't been great. Right. Rivalry-wise, I think he would say that. And, it's just, it's hard. It's hard. Numbers are down. The families, people have changed.
Right.
And it's not the same. You used to see back in the 90s the same names over and over again from Ansonia, from Derby.
Yeah, it's changed demographically, yeah.
But I'll tell you, there's nothing I enjoy more, and this is a great credit to yourself, like going on YouTube, watching those old Ansonia Derby games.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
I remember
and
being
the
a
crowds,
kid.
Too, are amazing.
Crowds are great, and that was one of my great childhood memories was getting to be a water boy during the early 90s to mid-90s. That 1990 Ansonia Derby game. Derby wins 1950. That was my brother's senior year.
Right, and that place was packed.
And it was packed for, all 70s, 80s, and most of the 90s.
Yeah. It was really, I think when it, and I said this too, I don't know if you agree or disagree. I really think, too, putting it on Friday nights hurt attendance a little bit, too. I think it should be played on a Saturday.
Yep.
I know Coach Brockett he loves Friday night games, but I really believe that that's one of the things they need to change is they need to put it back to a Saturday game because I feel like you will get more people to go. I think nowadays the person who's leaving work at 5 o'clock or 5:30, he or she is tired from working. They don't want to necessarily go to a Friday night game.
Yeah.
But I think if it's a Saturday, especially if it's, say, a 10:30 start or 1 o'clock start, you might attract more interest to the game.
Yeah, I in that facet, I agree with you.
Right.
The Saturday day games, I get to go to see a lot of my brother's games where they play Saturday day. You just get more people. If you're an older person now, do you really want to go out on a Friday night? It gets cold.
Right.
You're anticipating a possible, a score that might be very lopsided.
Yeah.
I think more people would come. I'd like to see them play Seymour once on a Saturday.
Yes. Yeah, that would be great.
I thought the crowds that they had, even the Sunday playoff game.
Right.
I thought it was a better crowd than they would have had on a Friday night.
Yeah.
So I hope, one day, I know my good friend Rob Lisi, who is he runs the Gridiron Club.
Yeah.
He would love to see a Saturday Ansonia Derby game. He's pushed it since he's been involved with the Gridiron Club.
Well, I think, I could be wrong, but I don't think the MVL would care. I think it's a matter of the two coaches getting together and saying, let's do it on a Saturday. And I know Coach French would be in favor of it. George is that old-time Derby guy, and, he kind of likes preaching the old-time Derby stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I just think Coach Brockett, since he's been at Ansonia, they've played Friday nights.
Yep.
And he's gotten used to that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I really just think a Saturday game would really do it justice.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe one day it'll happen. I don't know. It's hard to go against Tom.
A rainout might,
Yeah, a rainout.
Right. And I also believe they need to put it back to the 6th game. And I know coming up this year, it is going to be the 6th game of the year, which is great. But it should be like that every year. The MVL, I know they have to do it for scheduling. They kind of put it the 3rd game. Sometimes it's the 9th game. It should be like the 6th game of the year.
Absolutely.
Get it through the midway point. Let me ask you this. You talked about your coaches. I think it's a credit, too, to someone like Coach Lynch, because here he's got a big season coming up. He's replacing a legend.
Oh, yeah.
And he's still coaching with you, even though he's got – because, it's one thing to replace somebody who's been coaching, I'll say even 10 years. He's replacing a guy who's been coaching since probably 45 years at least. How's Coach Lynch been as far as that goes? Is he excited? How's he been doing with that?
He's extremely excited. He's actually having his first baseball meeting tonight after our game.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so he's going to be all in. I was extremely excited for him. I was glad that he got the job. I was glad that they kept it with someone who had been in the program. I know Coach Vaca was extremely happy that he got it. Pat's going to do a great job. He played baseball at Quinnipiac. He's probably one of the...
Oh, yeah, he's a very good athlete.
Yeah. He's probably one of the best pitchers that Ansonia had in their history. He was also a very good hitter. Very good hitter. He's going to do a nice job. I think he's going to keep Ansonia's baseball tradition alive. Coach Vaca was unbelievable.
Right.
He really was. I never got the chance to play for him. It's one I kind of wish, when I think about it, I kind of wish I played baseball in high school.
Coach Vaca never wanted to leave the field. He would stay there all night if they let him,
I had the opportunity to coach a fall league team that had Ansonia, Derby, and West Haven kids on it.
Wow.
And I had a weekly conversation with Coach Vaca, minimum probably 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Every week.
It's fun to pick his brain.
It was great. It was great talking to him. He did such a great job. 40 years, unbelievable. And you wouldn't know he aged. Over 40 years, he looks exactly the same.
Right. So basically the goal, like you said, you want to win every game you play.
Yep.
But basically the goal is to get to that 8 wins this year, correct? And
absolutely.
That's a starting point, because now, but I would think with you too, I think the goal every year, if you make the tournament, everybody wants to win a championship.
Oh, yeah.
That's everybody's dream, to have that moment, cut the net down. But I think to you, if you're making the tournament every year, the one thing that you're definitely accomplishing is it's a program. And that's the most important thing, correct?
Yeah. You want to establish something. The main thing I want the girls to understand is that I want to gain respect from the league. I want to gain respect from other coaches. I want them to see that, we do work hard. I just don't show up to practice and throw the balls out and say, let's run around for 2 hours. We're out there working hard on a daily basis, working on fundamentals, working on game plans, going out and scouting, getting ready for the next opponent. And, like you said, it's establishing a program. It is.
Right.
Once you become a regular tournament team, people start to notice. People start to, give respect for the hard work. You're getting some recognition for the hard work and dedication that you're putting in during the year.
Right. Well, Coach, we'll definitely be rooting for you tonight. Get that 3rd win. That'd be great. And, I think what you're doing, not just for Ansonia, because you're at West Haven too, and the fact that you're coaching soccer, I don't even know if you ever played it in your life.
I did not. No.
Right. So the fact that you're doing that, I think you're the people that the Valley needs, that high school sports needs, because I think you really are about the kids. You're not about yourself. And I think you're somebody that, people really need to have involved in high school sports. And I really wish you luck along the way. And I really hope you guys get that 8 win, and best of luck to you the rest of the way.
All right, Mike, thanks for having me. It was great being here. Like I said, I love the city of Ansonia. I love the kids of Ansonia. I'm glad to be coaching sports there. I love being in West Haven. It's what I like to do. Thanks for having me on, and keep doing what you're doing. I love listening to them every week. I listen to every one, so I was glad to be on one. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you again for coming on.
All right.
And that was Ansonia girls basketball coach Vince Della Volpe. For Valley Sports Rewind, I'm Mike Cannici saying goodbye, everyone.